Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll get started in just 1 second. So as we wait for everyone to join, just a reminder that if you have questions for us, you can please raise your hand. We'll unmute you. You can also drop your questions in the Q&A box, and Crystal will be elevating those questions to us at the very end as well of the presentation. You'll also have the opportunity to unmute and just discourse with us with any questions you have about the program. There's tons of opportunities along the way to ask questions and also at the end. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. This looks like a good start. I see the attendee list has filled out. So we'll get started today with a brief introduction and an overview of the program, followed by an overview of the curricula given by our consultants from Red to Green. And like I said, a question and answer session. So good morning again. My name is Rondalee Davis. I am a senior program officer here at LISC New York. I work on the housing team, spearheading one of a number of housing programs that we have. I work alongside Monica Dean, who is unfortunately out sick today, but she is our director of housing. And our organization, of course, is headed by Ms. Valerie White, our senior executive director. The team is rounded out by Ms. Crystal Golson, who's also on the call with us this morning. Crystal, do you want to take a minute to introduce yourself to everyone?
Good morning, everyone. My name is Crystal Golson, and I am the LISC New York housing intern here.
Thank you, Crystal. So we'll jump right in. So if you are even a little bit familiar with LISC, you will know that we are a national nonprofit that operates over 38 offices throughout the United States. And for the last 40 years, we have been highly invested in communities of color, ensuring that people have the capital and technical know-how that they need to make the places that they live thrive. LISC New York is LISC's flagship office in New York City. It was created in 1980. Over the last 3 years, we have merged with our Western New York office. So we were formerly LISC NYC, now we're LISC New York, and we extend services, partnerships, programs throughout New York City, New York State, aimed at creating a more equitable, inclusive, and sustainable New York. We work particularly with eradicating around the work of eradicating racial wealth gaps for good and protecting affordable housing for LMI New Yorkers. So we have 3 pillars that really inform our strategy and intention here at LISC New York. The first is radical healing, and this is aimed at examining and addressing underlying assumptions that perpetuate bias and bigotry. The second is our inclusive economic transformation that prioritizes target investments in public infrastructure, human capital, innovation. And the third pillar is sustainable wealth generation that explores and implements programs that support entrepreneurs, owners, career advancement, financial mobility, and wealth building in communities of color, which is where the Developers Training Program lives. So this is a quote from Valerie. It's talking about the strategies that inform LISC's work and the structural barriers that we acknowledge as part of, everyday issues that, prevent minority entrepreneurs from accessing capital and contract pipelines. So the target of this program is development firms, and it's firms that are interested in growing and working on commercial projects that but they're not prepared for the demands of the institutions that support projects throughout New York State and New York City. So to help firms thrive, LISC New York has initiated the Developers of Color training program that offers training and support for small and medium developers to succeed, compete, bid, win, and deliver on contracts, developments, and engagements throughout New York City and New York State. So the goal of the program is to help expand capacity for developers and expand their program access so that they can better position themselves to construct affordable housing throughout New York City and New York State and to grow as market opportunities grow. So we do three things as part of this program. We are working to enhance the network at all times that our developers are working in. We work to assist our developers gain access to capital and to also build their capacity to expand their portfolios. So I'm going to take a minute to introduce the Red to Green team. Will Cortez is the founder and CEO of Red to Green Consulting, LLC. The firm focuses on helping leaders and their organization gain breakthrough momentum for sustainable growth through individual coaching, workshops, and consulting engagements. Will has over 20 years of experience leading and managing full cycles of learning and organizational development initiatives. Francisco Pineda is currently serving as the faculty and director of the Masters of Science in Construction Administration program at Columbia, is also a fellow and chartered member of the Royal Institute of Chartered Surveyors. His professional background includes executive roles in strategy, operations, acquisitions, integration, scaling teams, repositioning assets, and restructuring processes. So I will hand it over briefly to Will and to Fran, who will discuss the program layout as well as the curriculum that you can expect to engage in over the 12 weeks of the developers training program.
Thank you very much, Rhonda Lee. And Will and I have had the pleasure of working together for close to a decade now. I also serve as a senior executive leading the city's large commercial industrial real estate portfolio. And both Will and I had been working at Columbia on executive education and graduate level education. So what I'd like to sort of introduce here is this notion that as we put this program together with LISC and as we thought through some of the components that were important for developers that were emerging or developers that were thinking about scaling or contractors that were beginning to think more institutionally about expanding their development investments. All of these sort of thought processes went into our design of the program. And what you'll find is a program structured around a couple fundamental elements, as well as operational discussions, and then strategic considerations of not just how do you invest and develop a property, but how do you grow your business to be able to scale with the growth of your portfolio. So the elements here are 9-week self-paced online instruction modules. We will have 2 in-person networking events. There will be one-on-one coaching opportunities that we'll talk about and get into. Real-time assistance with deals and project pipeline, especially as we go into what we call the Shark Tank, in which we hope that you are working through these 9 weeks to develop out what will eventually be your investment memo or your pitch deck. And hopefully that's on a live deal that you're currently working on. And then lastly, through some of the guest speakers and some of the big broad reach and platform of LISC, be able to meet and discuss and get to know and network with industry executives and industry practitioners and develop those relationships. We're really proud of the relationships that we have collectively, and I think you'll find them to be extraordinary individuals with a great desire to be there as supporting elements and cheering you guys on in your journey and pathway. So I think that touched on some of these high level points. Will, is there anything else you wanted to add as a broad intro and maybe a little bit about your role in during these next 9 weeks?
Yeah, thanks, Fran. I think just a quick note to say that as a group, we are really proud and feel the privilege of working with LISC to help advance both their priorities and these programs. As you will be able, as you, Fran, just quickly outlined, it's a pretty comprehensive program. It's really meant to fully engage participants and fully support them in the development of their portfolios and their networks, right? And so it's a privilege to be a part of it. I think, as Fran mentioned, one of the key components of it is also this one-on-one coaching, which will be provided to each of you for supporting you throughout the program. And so that will be one-on-one with industry experts. And we have had very good feedback on the program. This is the 6th running of the program, and we're very proud to be a part of it.
Thank you, Will. So as we mentioned earlier, the program is structured in 6 modules. They're broken down in sort of the top, if you go horizontally from left to right. This module is, or rather this sort of grouping of module is meant to talk through some fundamental elements of real estate development, construction, delivery. The second middle section is meant to address more of the operational pieces, starting with some of the considerations to think through operationally as you both build and grow and execute. But then on the other side of the deal making is, all right, great, what do you need to sort of operationalize an idea? The underwriting, some of the legal considerations, some of the deal terms and conditions, tax incentives, subsidies. We'll have some guest speakers there to talk a little bit about some of the different tax regimes that are out there for affordable housing, and that's what you're pursuing. And then lastly, at the bottom is a more kind of strategic discussion, both in an applied sense around, you know, how should you be thinking about contracts? How should you strategically be thinking about what sort of deal terms you accept with the purchase of a property and or the construction contract with a contractor. And then as a final module there to the right around thinking through more as strategic leaders, growing your business and planning for your business, as well as thinking through what are high-performing teams, whether they're your own employees or whether they're part of the broader ecosystem that you hire, the architects, engineers, construction managers, that makes up part of your team, and thinking about how do you ensure high performance in a project team that is both internal to you and external. So those are the 6 modules. We're going to be going through these modules from top left down to the top right down. So first week is the development process, introduction, zoning, permitting, risks, pitfalls. Then the operational leadership that I talked through, leading small firms, building your investor base. And then module 3 will be getting into some of those strategic weeds of contracts and setting up the governing documents. Number 4 is commercial issues, 5 underwriting the deal, and 6 is sort of this capstone around putting it all together into a broader strategic discussion. Yeah, so okay, great. So I think that Rhonda Lee will talk a little bit through the timeline to map what I just walked through into actual dates over the summer and some of those networking events, as well as some of those virtual live review sessions that you'll have with me, Will, and some of the other guest coaches. If you don't mind going back, yeah, perfect. Rhonda Lee, you want to walk them through the schedule?
Yes, thank you so much, Will and Fran. So the schedule, we have a very tight schedule this summer, but we have, outlined the dates here for everyone so they're aware. If you are selected for the program, you will know by the end of the week of Monday, June 17th. And then we'll have our formal kickoff in person at the LISC offices on the 26th. Time TBA, but we are hoping to start right at 6 o'clock and end right at 8. So as Fran mentioned, throughout the summer, we do convene as a learning community a number of ways. So the first is that you guys will have access to the modules that were just outlined in our learning platform. Those launch every Tuesday, and everyone has access to them before we meet in a live virtual session that is led by Will and Fran to go over the modules. So we do for this for this cohort have a number of pre-program review modules that are, optional depending on whether or not you feel you need those or not. And then the optional review session for that, of course, is listed here for the 11th. After that, we have our formal sessions that, is mapped one-on-one to the modules you saw before are reviewed weekly. Here, 4, 5, 6 through 9, from the week of the 18th of July all the way to program end on the 22nd. In the midst of all of this, we also know it's important for everyone to meet and network as a community. So for our networking sessions 1, 2, and 3, we are inviting the entire DOC community, or the DTP community, excuse me, to come out to the event. So these are, our coaches, our supporters, our cohort members from 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 will be in attendance. And the idea that is, we are introducing cohort 6 to the other cohorts with the idea that everyone is meeting, networking, and then, creating opportunities through these networking events. I think that we have not included it here, but we also throughout the cohort have opportunities for workshops that are also led by the Red to Green team that outline specific topics that the cohort feels that they need more instruction on or more time to explore. So those are TBA. When you are in the program, we'll communicate with you more about how those topics are selected and survey everyone for the dates when that will occur. Also here, you will note that we do not have our pitch competition listed on the dates. We are preparing a larger pitch competition that is scheduled for the fall, and we will have more information on that at a later time. I know if you have anything to add, Will or Fran.
No, I think the only recommendation I would make, if you are selected for the program, that you use this schedule, put it on your calendars, and then for the online modules, I think you can expect to at least take 30 minutes to 1 hour a week to complete the online modules. And then in addition, if you can attend the reviews, that would be an additional opportunity to connect with your cohort. But again, my recommendation is just to maintain some sort of cadence to make sure you can flow through the program easily.
And I would say too, it's really important that you take time out to review the material in the modules. What we've seen and heard from prior participants is that the modules really inform the conversations that are happening during the live session. So it's really important to sort of have that background, even as we see our more experienced developers participate in the program. We feel like it's just a great launching point for the conversations that do happen every Thursday evening. I see that we have a question in the chat. It comes from, it says, is there a potential to have networking events in other regions of the state, Central or Western New York specifically? So at this point, we do not have those, we do not have the opportunities for networking during cohort 6, but we've had a lot of interest from communities in Western New York, and we are working with a number of communities there to bring the developers training program. So if you are interested in, being participating in the program when it comes your way, just ensure that you're receiving emails from LISC New York, or reach out to us to ensure that you're on our mailing list to be aware of those opportunities when they come up. All right, so are there any other questions at this point for the team? You can unmute, you can drop them in the Q&A, the chat box, or you can raise your hands to get unmuted, whichever works. I see that you have your hand up, Zoe. I'm going to allow you to talk. Give me 1 second. All right, Jonathan, I see that you had a question for us.
Yes, I do. Will this recording be made available to us? I want to be able to show it to a couple of the other parties.
Absolutely. So after today, we will be putting the recording on the website on the DTP webpage, and it will also be sent to all of our participants. So if you registered for the event today or you attended, you'll get this recording sent out to you with a reminder to apply by Tuesday. So we have another question. This one says that you are representing a social service partner in the development process. Would you be eligible for the program? So the program is for individual developers. If you come from an organization, you are we're more than happy to review your application. So if you yourself wanted to apply, we've had people come to the program who represent, larger development organization or social service providers. So we welcome applications from individuals who are part of the development process in New York City. Okay, I'm trying to see if we have any other questions coming our way.
Think Jonathan raises his hand again.
Yes.
You can talk. You're
Okay.
still-
So does the criteria says you have to have a project in the pipeline.
Yes.
Does that project have to be in New York State?
Yes, it should be New York State. So we are looking at developers who, New York State or Northern New Jersey. But if you are seeking to apply to the program because you have, property elsewhere, land elsewhere, project elsewhere, I would say still submit your application and we will review it and, determine whether or not you're a program fit. I would still recommend that you submit your application. So I'm
Okay.
seeing a question from Mr. Petway. Says, I'm on a staff at a church who wants to participate in development under the GHODS backyard part. I'm sorry, I don't know the name of the Jihad's backyard program city. Do I qualify? I am not aware of that program, but like I said prior, I recommend just submitting your application for review. If you are part of any organization, just as the question from Noscademos, we recommend that you submit your application for review, and we'll just let you know if you are a program fit. All right, let me just see if there are any other questions.
We
Oh,
have-
God's Backyard Program, got it. What is considered Northern New Jersey? So the areas for eligibility requirements, so these are the areas that are most adjacent to New York City. So if you are I'll pull up a map, but if you are across the way in Bergen, I believe, or why am I blanking on the names of communities close to New Jersey? But if you're close enough to New York, and you're operating there, you should definitely submit an application. In cohort 6, cohort 5, I'm sorry, we had 3 applicants that came from the Northern New Jersey area.
We have JT Thompson hand raised.
Okay. Let me just go about.
Does Irvington count?
Irvington, let's look that up. I'm not familiar with Irvington. Yep, that does count.
Okay. Thank you.
That is northeastern New Jersey. All right, I see what other questions we have. I do see some other ones in the chat. Are startup developers who are working on their first project eligible for the program? Yes, they are. My firm does general construction and has no experience as a developer. What suggestions do you have for someone with no experience who's aspiring to be a developer? Fran and Will, I'll pass this one over to you.
So it's a good question. It's a case by case, and we should probably talk, but if you have never done any development, but you're familiar with, general zoning and permitting, and you understand sort of as of right, and underwriting, just basic kind of financial terms, then you probably are kind of ready to go through this program. But if you truly have never kind of thought through that, you might get hung up in some of the modules, especially as we go through some of the financing and the underwriting. But it is sort of a case by case basis. Having said that, though, as a contractor, you have a lot of experience in what is, technically the second half of the value chain of development, which is actually getting something designed, estimated, and procured and built and delivered. So, oftentimes you see a lot of developers that don't have strong builder background experiences, and they get sort of into some trouble. So it really is case by case. Look, if you feel strong and confident that you've got a good handle of some of the financial terms and topics, and you understand how to think through buying up a property or a townhouse and building it out, then I think you might be ready to take on the course.
Thank you so much, Fran. So we have one other question from Mr. Thomas. It says, is there some sort of certificate or graduate degree credit here in the program? So we do not provide any graduate degree credits. Participants in the program do receive a certificate of completion at the end. But no, there are no graduate credits that are associated with the developers training program. I just want to make sure we've gotten to everyone's questions. Yes, please go ahead if you have a question and you want to come off mute or to ask.
So how can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. My name is JT Thompson. I have built apartment buildings and a few other things, really maybe 25,000 square feet or less, 10,000 square feet years back. But now with the Hip Hop Hall of Fame project in Midtown by Penn Station, we got plans drawn by SOM Architects. We've been on hold because of the Gateway Tunnel project and the revamping of what the Penn Station is going to be. So the project for the Hall of Fame with the hotel and residential and retail complex has been put on hold, even though we joint venture co-own the land already. But I am interested in moving forward on some other projects in New York City. So we have projects that have been in the hopper per se, and we're doing I guess you could say a design and construction build out of a location that will actually turn into an entertainment venue. So I want to make sure that these things count from experience, even though the main part of development was done a few years back. But what I'm doing in New York City, is that relevant enough to still be a part of the program? Because we do want to get into affordable housing as well.
It does sound like you have relevant experience. Can I just ask how many years back? Just seems quite relevant. Was it in the last 5 years?
Those other development projects was probably maybe 15 years.
Okay.
But as far as flipping and stuff like that, that's like a thing that you do on a regular basis, but I wouldn't call that development per se, but it is the whole process still, regardless, from, making sure from the zoning and, as of right, and making sure all the bills and the, expenses and contractors overseeing everything from all different components. It's the same thing. But now that we're getting into talking about building multiple units like a site we're looking at now, whereas we can have potential to put up maybe 50 units on a 25,000 square foot site in Harlem, I'm thinking you know, this would be a great program to be a part of, but I want to make sure that that was still qualified.
So if you review the application form, which in the next slide has a QR code, and if you refer to our website, the application form is also linked there. You will see that we allow for developers to, write the specifics of their projects, future and past. So you'll have the opportunity to, explain what your pipeline looks like and your experience. So I would just say make sure you are writing all of that information into your application for review.
Great. I just thought it was cut and dry when I seen like minimum 3 years here and this here. I was like, I'm kind of like outside the box. I'm not like necessarily a cookie cutter piece.
And that's fine. We sit down and we review all of everyone's applications in its entirety, not just, we prescribe these
Parameters.
yeah, these parameters, these requirements, but we understand that, experience is diverse.
And if I can add, it actually sounds like you've got some great experience and have done some pretty interesting and even complex deals. So to just reinforce Rhonda Lee's point, I think the parameters are just so that we have something explicit, but it sounds like as long as you feel comfortable and you're fluent in the aspects, which from what you've described, you definitely have some pretty great experience. I think you're fully qualified and actually think you might get quite a lot out of the program based on what you've just said.
Thank you for sharing, Francisco. And thank you to the whole team. This is a great opportunity you guys are providing.
Pleasure. It's great to have you here.
Yeah, absolutely. So we have one other question in the chat about how to apply. I do want to be clear that if you go to I'll drop our website, or Crystal, can you please drop the website in the chat for everyone? So this is Developers Training Program page. It has the requirements for the program. It's where this recording will be linked. It is also where you can access the application for the cohort. You can go to that webpage and start your application as soon as, after this webinar. And absolutely. So you can do that, or the next slide, like I said, I'll just actually put that up right now. So this is our QR code that you can use to, you can just scan it with your phone and it will take you right to the application for cohort 6. And if you have your hand raised, I think Mr. Smith, you had your hand raised. So if you have a question, please unmute and ask it.
Okay, my question is that I have multiple business entities that want to create a new firm to develop affordable housing and worker cooperative housing. And I was wondering, do we have to use the history of one of the construction firm to meet the criteria? Or would you be accepting the new firm's application?
We would accept both. So we've had any number of iterations on that process from our prior cohort participants. We've had people apply together, under one main organization. Like if you have a development partner, as an example, they're applying under your organization, but you're both participating in the program. We've had people change their entity structure within the program. So we're really accommodating of any number of ways that you present your sort of like partnerships or ownership. The only thing you would have to do is to let us know so we know to update the name of your firm and the contact information if that's appropriate. That's it.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. All right, I'm not seeing any other questions in the Q&A or in the chat, and I don't see any hands raised. Let me just triple check. All right, so If there are no other questions, I want to thank everyone so much for making time this morning to listen to, attend the webinar. If you have any questions at all, please reach out to us. I will drop our email in the chat. And if you have any questions at all, as you are completing the application next Tuesday, over the weekend, any other points that you want clarified, please don't hesitate to reach out to us. All right, so that is our email address. And thank you so much. Talk to you soon.